this button.
Sounds good.
Look, it's good to meet up with you. And firstly, I'll just explain, folks, as you listen in, who Luke is. Luke and I met a couple of years ago. Luke was over on a team from America, and ideally, Barbara, and well, not ideally, but in reality, Barbara and myself were to go across and meet Luke and some of his folks a couple of weeks ago, and that didn't happen due to coronavirus. So we've now joined up tonight through the wonders of technology. So look, it's good to have you. Maybe you just want to explain a wee bit more about who you are and the team that came across.
Sure. Thank you, Trevor, for having me. It's good to see you halfway across the globe, but like you said, technology is wonderful. We came, I guess it was around 2 years ago. This week, I believe it was, almost exactly a 2-year anniversary of when we came over to Rathfriland and worked in that community. We really enjoyed the VBS type style camp that we had down in the park. Some of our team members, we still talk about that and glean some ideas from it as well for our home VBSs. But we really, all of us had such a wonderful experience working with the church there, with the community, getting to visit the different schools, and hopefully sometime when things get back to normal, we'll be able to have both you and Barbara over in the States, and you can be our guests for a time. And I know that all the other members on our team are definitely looking forward to that also.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, since we're catching up, Luke, I have a few questions for you. And firstly, I'll fire off with how is life for you and your family during this time of COVID-19?
Well, thankfully, each state in America had very different rules, varying quite widely. If you lived in New York, California, or even Florida, the rules that those governors put into place were very strict, almost to where people could only leave to go to the grocery store, go to the doctor, and that was nearly it. Where we live in Indiana, it was kind of a mixture a little bit. We did have, the stay-at-home order. The biggest thing that affected us were the schools. When the schools closed, our kids, they were home, so we were teaching them from home. But maybe we're kind of an anomaly a little bit, but COVID or no COVID, we still had outdoor work we had to do, still had to plant, still had to plow. A lot of things stayed the same in that regard. But we did have, even where we live, quite a few people come down with the virus. My mom and my dad, they both came down with the virus. My mom actually was in the intensive care in the hospital for around 12 days with it. But thankfully, both my parents and my sister have gotten better from that. So it's been interesting, definitely interesting. I'm sure, as a fellow minister, you probably ran into experiences with changing weddings, funerals, a lot of different things we had to do differently, and trying to learn what we're doing now, the technology part of it, and broadcasting all of the different lessons. Although I'll say for me, it's been great to do that, because now I can listen to other ministers such as yourself and several others that otherwise, I wouldn't be able to. So that it's almost been a blessing for me in that way to do that. But it's completely unprecedented. completely unprecedented. I'm not sure that we've ever faced anything particularly like this, and I almost hope we never have to again. But if life has taught us anything, there's nothing that's predictable.
Yeah, true. I suppose where we're at, you talk about states, the United Kingdom and Northern Ireland as part of that. It was just a total lockdown. So really, for the likes of us, it's been for, well, there's myself and Barbara, my wife, and Bethany, who's our youngest, and she has the joy of being locked up with us. So she had the duty of going out to do the shopping as an excuse to get out. Life then really has been organised around the phone and the computer, and as you say, making contact with people, and probably ended up putting on a wee bit extra weight. So that's the way it goes. And just leading into that, then, how well, we've mentioned changes. How's your church organising worship look in the context of COVID-19?
During the first 2 months, when we were still kind of prohibited from really gathering at all as a large group, we mainly just resorted to online broadcasting through our Facebook page and our YouTube page. And the other ministry staff and I, we would try to do that actually daily, not just on Sunday, but try to send in as many messages to people as we could, whether it was a daily devotion, lunchtime talk, or a sermon that would come across on Sunday. We've done that. We've also done email Bible studies. We're actually in Daniel chapter 10 right now. We started the book of Daniel back in March and just now getting through chapter 10, which has been interesting doing that on an email a chain letter type. And also something that I thought I probably would never do, but have found to be actually somewhat enjoyable, is having sort of like a pen pal correspondence with different members of our congregation who don't have any kind of internet or email capabilities. So it's been interesting to say the least, but what we've found is that actually I think we're reaching more people now than we were before this started. From what we can tell, there are more people tuning in to the video sermons, more people participating in the Bible studies via email or even snail mail than we had before. So I am almost a little bit remiss to try to go back to normal because I don't want to lose what we've had so far. But that's something I think that is really just a testimony that whatever we as the church are going to face, and the church has faced many things over different centuries that have come about, but we will still be able to find a way to share the message of the gospel and be a ministry of a church, even if the methods or mediums that we need to use are going to change. The fact of still preaching the kingdom of God is not going to change. We may have to find different ways to do it or different ways to reach people, to still be able to do that.
Yeah. No, it's been fairly similar for ourselves. We've had just basically to go overnight to doing something online. So we're not doing daily devotionals, but we have a morning and an evening service going out, what we call a midweek Bible study. And then it had been one of my aspirations, but this has given us the time and opportunity. I've introduced a Thursday business talk geared towards the business community. So that's been helpful. And really the big gap has been in the area of prayer and connecting people. So Zoom, I hadn't realized there was this technology called Zoom in existence, but we're now going to experiment with Zoom to see if we can bring people together to pray. So that currently would be one of our difficulties in organising worship, but along the same lines as yourselves. Now, life's different, and you might have more spare time. But tell me this: have you read any books, or have you read a book that you would recommend to me or to us?
Read a book that I'd recommend to you. Do you mean during this pandemic, or
Yes.
or just in general?
Well, I was thinking about the pandemic, but if you want, if you have a really good one outside of that, that's fine.
Well, oh goodness. I'd almost feel like I'm cheating an author if I mention one and not the other. Let's see. To be honest with you, it's not really a religious book, but I have been reading the Canterbury Tales again from Geoffrey Chaucer since we've been.
So it's a classic.
In this, you know, I would say I don't know. I know he has several different books, but are you familiar with Billy Graham's book "Just as I Am"?
Not that particular one, but I'm familiar with Billy Graham and his crusades and books. Yes, So that would be one.
Yes, I would recommend that one. It's a. I don't know that I would call it really deep theology, so to speak, but just a practical experience.
Yeah.
A practical.
Yeah. Okay. No pressure.
Pardon?
I say there's no pressure. That's good.
No. Yeah. Is that a book you have?
Yes. This is one I thought. I've read one or two during lockdown, and this is called Small Town Jesus by one of the pastors from your part of the world, Donnie Griggs. And
okay.
I suppose it's fair to say that the likes of Tim Keller has put a big emphasis on planting churches and ministry to the city. And this guy then, I suppose, is coming out and counterbalancing that by saying that there's a need and there's an opportunity in small towns. And he uses the example of how Jesus ministered in small villages and small towns. And I thought that was quite helpful because for a lot of us, in our setting, and I think it's something similar for you, it's a smaller town setting, and there's been some good concepts brought out of that. So that's one to consider.
Yes. Well, and going right with that, right before this happened, I was contemplating going up to Chicago because Chicago's only about a 4-hour drive for us, so not horribly far. But there's a gentleman there who is the minister at Moody Church, Ed Stetzer, and he was holding a conference about doing ministry in small towns. I think that would be interesting because, of course, where we are, it is a small town. It is a small town. I think our population is 653, but it'll be 654 in December. So.
Very, very good. Very good. Well, leaving America and coming to Northern Ireland, as we just mentioned at the start, did the trip to Northern Ireland make any difference to you and to the team that you were part of? as they visited Rathfriland, etc.?
Could you repeat the first part of that question? I kind of lost your connection.
Okay. Did your trip to Northern Ireland make any difference to the members of the team after they had the experience in Rathfriland and went back home again?
Yes. I don't know if you recall or not, but we were a smaller team, and all of us kind of came from different backgrounds of where we were coming to. I would say that every single one of us definitely took something back from that trip. I can speak for myself personally. One of the things that I took back was just, I guess you could call it reassuring and encouragement. Traveling halfway across the world and working with a church that, felt the same way about its people that we felt, enjoying some of the same successes, having some of the same, struggles that we were having. Especially I know we talked about how to reach young adults, how to reach teenagers. That I think was something that I found in going and working with the town, working with the church, was just, I guess a good term would be mutual edification. I was encouraged coming back. I was in some way, I guess you could say there was a fire in my seat to try to, really, I guess, just be encouraged to keep ministering, not to get discouraged, but to be encouraged. I can speak for that for myself. Also making good friends. It's been 2 years, but Trevor, I still listen to a lot of your sermon recordings. I think you had gone through the Psalms at one point, and we're doing different Psalms. Was that your Sunday evening sermons for a while?
We had Psalms in the summer, and then we had used Psalms in the evening at a point. So we tend to use the Psalms as fillers or over the summertime. So, but that's very kind of you to listen in. I appreciate that. Thank you. And just you can feed back and to encourage the team members as well. The park, or the size, is the area that we worked in, and since your visit, we have recruited a community outreach coordinator, a young man called Mark Annett, and last year we had activities in the park every 2 weeks, so it gives an opportunity to make some good connections. But we haven't been able to do that this year, obviously, with the restrictions, but we are developing the work that you started off there in the size. And no, it's encouraging as well to keep in contact, and we're encouraged to see you online as well. On a lighter note, in which sport would you like to represent the United States of America? So pretend they're selecting a team for the Olympics. What would you like to represent America in? You've done very well. You've answered those interview questions, and you're not even breaking a sweat. You're a real professional on the microphone.
I'm sitting in air conditioning right now. It's 68 degrees inside.
Well, we've had good weather. We've had good weather as well, but it's not as good